Hello friends, welcome to today's class. Today we will start with your next very important topic. We already covered your assembly language. So the next very important topic we are going to cover today is called as input-output operations. So many of times you might have heard of this operation which is called as input-output operation. Now what is a simple example of this input-output operation? A very simple example of your input-output operation is, say for example, you are taking a printout of a paper. Then it involves both input as well as output. Like say for example, whatever the document you are preparing, by keying in the words, it forms your input, and whatever the printout you are taking, it becomes the output. So this is one of the simple operation or the basic operation of using your input output devices. Here the input device is nothing but your keyboard and the output device is nothing but your printer as well as your screen, which is nothing but the monitor. Now regarding this input and output devices, it has been already covered in your module number 1. So here we will just focus upon what are the various operations, how the operations are done. Like say for example, I want to access some data from the input device, then store it in a memory and later process the data and finally send the result. So that is what we will be seeing today. What are the various methods to do it? I'll repeat it once again. How to process the data. First thing is how to take the data from the input device. Next is store it in a memory and then process it. That is whatever the processing you need to do, like say for example a plus b, addition, subtraction, whatever it is. Then send the result to the output device. How these operations are done will be seen in this topic or in this class. Now, what is I/O? So I/O is nothing but it is the data on which the instructions operate and not necessarily already stored in memory. So I would like to make one point clear here. Sometimes the data is not stored in the memory, but it is directly taken and it is processed without storing in the memory. Sometimes we would not be required to store the data in the memory. Like say for example, you are writing a bigger program and you don't want the intermediate results. You only want the final result. In that case, no need to store the data inside the memory. Next thing, the data which is to be transferred between the processor and the outside world. So this major step, like say for example, whatever the data you want to transfer between the processor and the outside world is nothing but your input output. So like the simple example what we saw just now. So what is outside world? It could be a disk, it could be a keyboard or anything. Okay, so this is very important. Here involves your I/O. Now next very important thing, I/O operations are very much essential. That means they are performed by having a significant effect on the performance of the computer. We mean to say here is nothing but all our I/O operations are very much important, and whenever we perform these I/O operations, it might so happen that it will be affecting the performance of the computer. Like it might reduce or it might increase. Regarding performance, you already seen in your first module, wherein you will be calculating the performance with the help of a performance equation. The similar way, when you calculate that performance and when an I/O operation is happening, the performance may reduce drastically, and when the I/O operation is not happening, then the performance might be something else. Okay friends. So in order to do this, one very important thing is we need to access the I/O and they need to be addressed. So whenever we would try to address your I/O, there are three important methods. Along with addressing your I/O, another major thing is we also need to look after your data transfer, like how the data transfer can be done between your I/O devices and the memory as well as processor. So remember friends, we are speaking of three things here. We are speaking of three things. One is your I/O. The next very important thing is your memory, and the next very important thing is your processor. So we are dealing with all these three things now, that is I/O, processor as well as memory. So when we deal with these three things, the first thing we need to address is how these IO devices can be taken care of, how these IO devices can be connected. Next very important thing is how these IO devices how these IO devices can be so as I was speaking of, your whole IO will be dealing with three important things. Which are these three important things? One is your memory, the other one is your input output devices, and the third one is your processor. So we need to interact with all these three devices. So if you want to do this, you need to address two aspects. One is how these can be accessed, one thing. The other thing is how to transfer the data from the IO and your say memory, or it could be your processor. Okay, so in order to do it, we have three important methods, which are nothing but one is program controlled IO, the third one is interrupt IO, sorry, the second one is interrupt IO, and the third one is nothing but your DMA, which stands for direct memory access. Now, first we'll touch up upon your IO mapped or standard IO method. So here, what we'll be doing is in your IO mapped or your standard IO method, here the input output devices are considered as different entities. Like say for example, I have a keyboard, I have a mouse, and I have a printer. All these are considered as different entities. Therefore, we cannot use your normal instruction. Like say for example, if I want to move something from your IO device to a processor. Say for example, this is my IO device. Say for example, this is my IO device, right? And I want to move something from this IO device to the memory. To the memory, or the best example is we'll take to the processor. Okay, so if I want to move it, or whenever move is nothing but what now? We use MOV. Move is nothing but what? I want to copy from this IO device to your processor. So whenever I want to do it, I cannot use my normal instruction, which is your move. In this case, we need to use your special instructions, which are called as in-out instruction. Okay friends, so this is the major thing when you consider your IO devices as a separate entities. You cannot use your move instructions, but you have to use your in and out instructions. Now, so if this method is used in your assembly language to access in your IO devices, then we come across your today's computing system. I mean to say, in all our today's computing system, we are using this type of IO device method. Okay, so therefore this forms the major thing, that is using your IO mapped method, we have designed most of our today's computers. Okay, now usually your IO space, that is the amount of space your IO devices takes, is somewhere around 65 KB space. That is, say for example, if I have a keyboard and that keyboard will be having a buffer, then that is of space of 64 KB. Then this 64 KB can be accessed with the help of a 16-bit address. So remember this friends, all your IO devices will be having some buffer. So what is a buffer? It is a storage method. That storage method usually will be of the space of 64 KB. Now, if I want to access this 64 KB, I require your 16-bit address lines. That is what it means by this point. Now, when we use this IO mapped method, one major advantage is there will be no conflict. What is the meaning of no conflict? I told you in the beginning of this, while we were discussing this method, that there is no conflict. There is no conflict. It means that between the IO and your processor, there will be no competition. If there is no competition, then there will be no conflict. No conflict means what? There will be no demands to access the processor immediately. Like say for example, I have a IO device and I also have a processor and I have a memory, right? Now this processor will be accessing your memory, right? Even your IO device will be accessing your memory, right? Now in this method, in your IO mapped method, there is no conflict, there is no competition between your IO and processor to access your memory, because your IO is not going something like this. Through one line, it is not going to memory. Whereas here, it is going something like this. Through a separate line, it is trying to access the memory. Therefore, it is considered as a separate entity. That's why there will be no conflict between your processor and your IO device in this method, in this particular method. Okay. So we'll finish off this method here. Next comes is nothing but your program controlled IO. Here, in order to understand your program controlled IO, we'll try to take an example of a processor and along with the processor and a display unit. So in program controlled IO, as the name itself is telling you, here all your operations are controlled by program. That means it is controlled by your processor. So the processor will be taking care of all the operations. That is, the processor will check the device statuses and it will access it, and then it will be performing its operations. Okay friends, so this is very much important. Now let us say an example of reading a character from a keyboard, and then we'll try to display it on the screen. So this example we'll take wherein you need to read from a keyboard and display it on a screen. So always remember, the rate of data transfer between your devices is very much varying. Like the speed with which you are typing your input is very less, right? Whereas the speed with which the keys, the data is taken by the processor is very high. So therefore we require some buffers in between your keyboard and the processor. So therefore, in order to weigh as there is a rate of data transfer is very much varying, we require a buffer in your keyboard as well as a buffer in your processor. And why it is required? Because your typing speed is less, and whereas the processor taking input speed is very high. Okay friends, now so this is what has been told here. Since there is a difference in speed, we need to synchronize it, and if I want to synchronize the transfer of data, I require your what now? We require the buffers. Okay, so a solution is what now? The processor sends the first character and then waits for the signal. So the processor will be sending the first character, then it will wait for a signal from the display, and once it has been received, then what it will do? It will send the second character. So along with the buffer, you also need to have a feedback mechanism. You need to have an acknowledgement mechanism wherein your display will be trying to send a acknowledgement to your So display will trying to send a feedback to the keyboard. So that is very much important. So this is how your whole mechanism will look. You have a processor and you have a keyboard, you have a display. Your keyboard has a buffer fin, and your display also has a buffer fout, and using these buffers, first it will send it to a bus. From the bus, it will be going to a processor. From the processor, it will be again sent back to your data out. Okay. Now, this is how your program will look. You can observe here. So it will read, wait will be there if fin is equal to 0. Okay. Once the data has been input, then what will happen? Once the data in has been given, then that data in will be given to your R1. Then if this happens, then your fin will be changed to 1. Now, when I want to write, first your fout will be equal to 0. Then once your data has been transferred from R1 to data out, then your fout will be given to 1. So very simple friends. What will be happening here? What will be happening here? Before any data comes in, it will be what now? Read wait, and your fin status register will be equal to 0. Once the data has been taken inside, then your fin will be going to 1, and your data in will be whatever the data is there, that will be transferred into R1. Now, if I want to write this data, initially it will be fout will be equal to 0. Once I try to write it, your fout will be changed to 1, and whatever the data is there in R1, that will be transferred to your data out. Okay. So this is how your whole operation will be taking place in your program controlled input output operation. Finally, the last one you have is memory mapped IO. So memory mapped IO is slightly different, wherein your IO device is also considered as a memory. That is, both your IO device as well as your memory both are considered as one. So therefore, we require some buffers and registers for the IO device. So you can see here in memory mapped IO, what will be happening is some memory addresses are values used to refer to peripheral device buffer registers. So if I want to refer to any buffer registers, then I will be using what now? Some memory address values. Okay, that's why the memory has been divided between the processor as well as your IO. So remember friends, here the memory has been divided in between the processor and the IO. So no special instructions are required here. As we saw in the previous thing, we require in and out. Here we don't require any special instructions, but we may require some device status registers. And we will be moving or using the data instructions. The instructions we will be using is the normal instructions, which are load and move instructions. It has lot of disadvantages. Like one major disadvantage is here there will be wastage of memory space. Why? Because we will be allocating a lot of memory for an IO device, but the IO device might not completely utilize that memory. So therefore there might be some wastage. Finally, there will be a conflict. Why there is a conflict? I have already explained. Both memory as well as IO device will be using a single line to access your processor. That's why there will be always a conflict between your IO and the memory. So this is very rarely used, friends, and most of the time it is not used. Most of the times we will be using either your program controlled IO, or we will be using your very famous one, which is nothing but IO mapped or standard IO system. So friends, this is here I will be ending my today's class, wherein we have completely covered your IO devices. In the next class, I'll try to go to your stacks. Okay, thank you for watching, and if you have any doubts, you can always call me or WhatsApp me on my number. So I hope you already know my number. In every class I show you my number. So this is my WhatsApp number as well as my phone number. Okay, thank you for watching. We'll meet again in the next class.